I want to start with the epic Virgo Shaka poem. Flowers sprout and die. The stars shine but eventually fade. Everything dies. The earth, the sun, and even something as immense as this universe is not excluded, compared to that. Man's life is as ephemeral as the blink of an eye. In that short instant a man is born, laughs, cries, fights, suffers, rejoices, regrets, hates and loves others. Everything is transitory, and then we all fall into the eternal sleep called death. Shaka's monologue before dying. I always liked these words. They encapsulate a reality that we absolutely all live or go through. In this video I want to introduce you to one of the most powerful golden knights, the one who is considered the closest to a god. Join me to see the video. Shaka is the golden saint of Virgo and Saint Seiya and protects the house of the Virgin in the sanctuary of Athena. He is considered by his allies as the reincarnation of Buddha, but actually Buddha is his mentor. He has a power of observation that allows him to know the truth hidden between appearances. He lost his life due to the destructive exclamation of Athena executed by Saga, Shura, and Camus, in order to, through his eighth sense, be able to accompany Athena in the world of the dead. Finally, he died along with the other golden saints to break the Wailing Wall. Appearance. His appearance is that of a young man with long blonde hair, which reaches his knees, and reddish eyes, blue, in the anime. One of his most particular signs is the red bindi that he wears in the center of his forehead. Personality. Shaka is a character who stands out for his serenity and wisdom, understanding the physiology of man and the world to perfection. He shows attitudes of arrogance, superiority, and above all, of bravado and arrogance in his fights against beings he considers inferior to him, such as bronze saints or low-class specters. Despite his calm, Shaka is a man who gets annoyed easily and acts cruelly, as shown in his encounter with Ikki. Besides, he is totally devoid of mercy. His loyalty to Athena is highly questionable, as he initially fights for the pontiff despite realizing that his rivals bronze saints were also fighting for a just cause. For him the important thing is to obey the orders of whoever is in command, being Saga, impersonating Xian, at that time, and Sayori is once recognized as the true Athena. This he makes up for in his willpower, as he was able to lay down his life for the goddess Athena by facing 3 golden saints to certain death. History. Before 12 houses. Being a native of India, he grew up and trained for saint in this place, on the banks of the Ganges River. Shaka had the ability to engage in conversations with the Buddha, who instilled him in the deepest mysteries of life and knowledge. Growing up surrounded by disease, hunger and death, but with a deep love for his native country, he wondered why life itself is full of suffering and in the end is struck down by the greatest sadness, death. In this way, and with the Buddha's response, he was instructed about life beyond death and that this is not the end of everything. Buddha told him that when he could really understand the meaning of those words, he would become and live as the closest man to the gods. This helped him to awaken the eighth sense later. He had become a golden saint, wearing his cloth at the young age of 7, just like most of the golden saint of his generation. Death Queen Island. Shaka appears in front of Ikki the Phoenix, on the island of the Death Queen. He came to this place with a mission to kill Tiango and the Black Saints due to their evil, but Ikki had already defeated them. When meeting face to face, Shaka offends Ikki with his words, so he responds by launching an attack with great fury, but the Golden Saint receives it unaffected. When the Saint of Virgo fights back, Ikki falls wounded and surrendered to the difference in level. However, Shaka decides to spare his life when he sees that Ikki was not an evil being, and erases everything related to this meeting from his memory, warning that if they met again as enemies, it would make him remember all the fear he experienced. Chamber of the Pontiff. In the room of the Pontiff, the latter is attacked by Iolea de Leo, who has already discovered the secret. But Shaka interrupts him and questions why he questions and attacks Athena's representative, and begins to fight with the Saint of Leo. Only a clash of fists and a technique occurs between these warriors, before Iria is attacked by the pontiff through his genre Maken. In the Battle of the 12 Temples. Once the Seiya combat begins, Shiryu and Shun inevitably fall under Shaka's power when they arrive at the Temple of the Virgin, and would have been killed had it not been for Ikki the Phoenix who came to save them. Both saints have a tough fight. Initially, Shaka taking advantage of the drops of blood that Ikki made him spill when he wounds him, which form a gigantic river of blood with which he intends to drown the Saint of Bronze. Ikki barely manages to escape by turning on his Cosmo to evaporate the blood. After this, Ikki tries to attack with his Genmaken with the intention of making Shaka see a hallucination. But he reverses the attack of the Bronze Saint, making him see an unpleasant illusion in which he comes out carrying his brother, still baby, in arms, being this one, heavier than usual. Later, this one is attacked by Rikud Rhine of Shaka, but it fails to take effect. When Shaka notices that Ikki cannot be defeated by this method, he decides to release the Tenburin and remove all of his senses. But Ikki realizes that this attack by Shaka is a double-edged sword, because he lets himself take his senses on purpose, only to awaken his seventh sense and with it defeat Shaka. Even the Golden Saint feels great concern because the Ikki's cosmos grows to inordinate levels. Both were trapped in a remote corner of space-time, from which they are rescued by M from Ares at Shaka's request, since he could leave alone if he wanted to, but wanted to return to Ikki. During this fight Shaka shows a change of attitude, solving the doubts he had regarding the goddess. Once the battle in the 12 temples is over, he offers his blood for M to repair the Andromeda cloth. In the anime he does not repair this, but the Phoenix cloth. This change is due to the fact that in the animated version, unlike in the original work, Ikki was still alive. War in Asgard, anime exclusive. Throughout this saga, Shaka appears along with the other 4 surviving Golden Saints, M, Aldebaran, Iolia, and Milo, and does not have an active participation. Holy War against Poseidon. Elder Doo orders M, Aldebaran, Iolia, Shaka, and Milo not to leave the sanctuary during the battle against Poseidon. Holy War against Hades. When the revived Saga of Gemini, Shura of Capricorn and Camus of Aquarius arrive at the Temple of the Giant Crab, Shaka tries to buy time trying to retain them through several consecutive illusions, until Saga discovering the origin of the illusions makes them disappear completely one after other. The Saint of Gemini, knowing that Shaka was the culprit, attacks him from a distance, destroying part of the Temple of the Virgin. However, the Saint of Virgo manages to block the blow with his protective mental barrier Ka with Makronan and counterattacks them equally at a distance with his Tenma Fuku. When it appeared that Saga, Shura, and Camus had been eliminated, Shaka finds that they actually camouflaged themselves among the troop of specters that had entered the sanctuary. Shaka is in charge of killing all the specters who were with them, watching their actions, and asks the 3 revived saints if their intentions are really to kill the goddess. Before Saga's affirmation, Shaka decides to fight them in the Garden of the Twin Salts. In a place like this, it is said that Buddha died leaning between the 2 trees. That is why Saga believes that Shaka's intention is to die at his hands. The combat begins and Shaka, seeing himself outnumbered, decides to use his maximum technique, the Treasure of Heaven, revealing that the only method to kill him before he takes their senses is by using the forbidden technique. The exclamation of Athena that forces the revived saints to assassinate Shaka to preserve his senses as well as his life and thus fulfill their mission. While the traitorous saints are affected by the gradual loss of their senses, all 3 understand that even if they are branded as traitors and cowards in the future, they will have no choice but to use this most unfair technique to eliminate the Saint from Virgo. Upon understanding Shaka's intentions to die, they end up attacking him with the forbidden technique, just at the moment when he was going to take away their 5th sense. After the devastating explosion, Shaka seems to remain untouched, but when Shura approaches to finish her off, they realized that Shaka had already died, and what was in front of them was nothing more than her spirit. Already when her body left this world, Shaka's spirit writes with her blood on the petals of the cherry blossom the word Arayashiki, which is also known as eighth sense, and sends the petals with Athena. Shaka sought her own death to awaken her eighth sense and enter the underworld without being ruled by the power of Hades. Already in the underworld, he meets Athena and they both head to face Hades himself. To do this, they go to the Champs-Élysées, but they realize that Hades was not there, so they decide to go to Judika. Shaka appears before Hades and was about to attack Shun, now possessed by the god, when he is stopped by Athena, who tells him that she does not want someone innocent like Shun to die. The goddess proposes to Hades to sacrifice herself as long as he stops the great eclipse. It is at that moment when the god of the underworld orders Shaka to kill the goddess with the spear of Pandora that was there. The saint of Virgo hesitates for a moment, but ends up attacking the god of the underworld, but Athena herself stops the spear with her hands. By doing this, her blood falls on the body of Hades, who begins to suffer from the contact of divine blood and is expelled from Shun's body, taking Athena with him to the Elysian fields. That is why Shaka tries to destroy the Wailing Wall, using all his life energy. He planned to sacrifice himself to try to make way to where Athena was. When he is stopped by Libra Doo telling him that he is useless and that for this, they will use the Libra weapons together with Iolia, Mu, and Milo. Although this idea turned out to be another failure. Finally the spirits of the remaining golden saints appear so that at last the 12 gathered sacrifice their bodies and souls. In order to destroy the Wailing Wall and thus the bronze saints can reach the Campos Elíseos and rescue Athena. In next dimension. Once Tenma and Shun reach the Temple of the Virgin and are attacked by the residual thought of Shaka of Virgo. Shaka, through his blood in the Andromeda cloth, manages to manifest his spirit in that place to help the bronze saints. Shaka, as a guardian, cannot allow them to pass through the Virgin Temple without her permission, so he unfolds the 4 gates of Buddha. Tenma hastily heads to select one of the doors but is stopped by Shaka, who warns him that a rookie like him couldn't survive a barrier like that. They both use the final technique of the Virgo saints, the Tenburin. Shaka tells Shaka that it is reckless to attack him with the Tenburin, so Shaka opens his mouth unleashing his divine sound. Called Unji. The sound that symbolizes the end of the universe, which causes an immense darkness capable of swallowing the Temple of the Virgin completely, destroying everything that is in the place. But Shaka realizes that Shaka can elevate his cosmos to such magnitude because like him, Shaka deprives himself of one of the 5 senses. So Shaka opens his eyes and releases the Agi, the symbol of the birth of the universe, which causes an immense light that begins to dispel Shaka's darkness. Shun desperately yells for them to stop and throws himself into the midst of light and darkness, causing Tenma to try to stop him by holding on to him, disappearing until he falls eternally through an alternate dimension, and interrupting the duel between the 2 Virgo saints. Shaka reveals to Shaka that he released the Unji to test it and Shaka apologizes for acting so rude and asks Shaka to help the saints who have fallen between light and darkness and also asks that he remove the barrier from the Temple of the Virgin so that the bronze saints can pass, but Shaka asks her why she is so interested in helping them. Shaka reveals to him that Shun of Andromeda is the one who must inherit the Virgo cloth. Shaka grants the favor Shaka requested. He thanks him and disappears, returning again to Nirvana. Later, Shaka's spirit appears before Sayori and Shaka along with the rest of the souls of the other golden saints of their generation to save their goddess from danger in the labyrinth of the gods. We have learned a lot in this video. If you made it this far, let me thank you for your beautiful time. I have no choice but to thank you and wish you well and I hope to see you again in the next video. Take care.